Most of the time, when Ignition GT goes on launches, we take our own cameraman. Very occasionally, due to space limitations, we're provided with a cameraman on location. On this particular launch we're featuring this weekend, there was a kleiner hiccup and there was no cameraman, just me. So, along with a few beautiful stock footage shots like these in France, which Mercedes-Benz has given us, I came back with quite a bit of this. Some of this, and a ridiculous amount of this. But regardless, quite an experience to share. We've seen it strutting its stuff in the 4x4 Fundi Challenge. Once upon a time, it won the Paris-Dakar Rally, and even the Pope has one. There's a reason the G-Class is so legendary in off-road circles. And to mark its upgrades for 2013, Mercedes-Benz has brought us to Austria, or more specifically Graz, which is the second largest city here, and the place where the famously called Geländewagen is made. Now, I would have loved to take you inside the factory with me, but the G-Class operation is top secret. Strictly no filming or photographs allowed.
Magna Steyr has been our contract manufacturing partner for more than 30 years now. Originally Puch was well known for off-road competency. And what I like here in the Magna Steyr plant most is that we have very, very dedicated people with lots of know-how. And they give this wonderful vehicle kind of a soul.
Part of that soul comes from the fact that every G-Class is hand-built. Since 1979, the Magna Steyr factory has produced over 200,000 Gs, and apparently more than 80% of them are still on the road, or off-road, as the case may be. There are 50 different assembly stations, but each of the 30 different versions of the G-Class, including this gorgeous cabriolet, which unfortunately won't be available in South Africa, are constructed on the same ladder frame chassis that make it so capable on the rough stuff. Start to finish, it takes 10 working days to complete all the steps necessary for assembling a G-Class, and they're almost at their capacity of building 60 cars a day. In 2011, G-Class achieved its best sales ever globally with double-digit growth.
During the last 3 years, we were able to double the volumes, which has also a huge effect on the factory. Just a couple of weeks ago, the colleagues from Magna Steyr changed into two-shift operation. And now in the two shifts, more than 1,000 people in the plant work for the G-Class operation.
2012 should see more than 9,000 vehicles roll out of Magna Steyr's gates. To make sure each one is perfect, the G-Class undergoes some rigorous testing. Later today we're going to be going up the Schöckl, which is the test track they use for G-Class. Goes up and down there hundreds and hundreds of times before it hits your garage. As a precursor, we're going to do the Iron Schöckl, which is a real test of the G-Class's famous off-roading ability. Okay, well let's get the name right first. Actually it's called the Schöckl, and it's a real showpiece for Mercedes-Benz, highlighting what the G is most well known for, its 3 differential locks.
We are using the differential lock, so we have a center lock. And with the center lock, we have a connection between front and rear axle, and we switch off all the electronic driving assistance systems like ABS, ESP, and 4ETS system. And then I engage the rear differential lock to bring both wheels in the rear axle together, and then they turn in the same speed, and at last the front lock. So the G-Class is famous for these 3 differential locks.
The torsion obstacle at the start and end is a good demonstrator of how the diffs work. Because there are 3, it means every wheel works independently, going its own way at its own speed.
So for uphill driving, we have a 45 degrees ramp with 100%. I'm using the first gear, small revolutions, around 1100 RPMs. I'm climbing up very smooth here.
G-Class also benefits from not having too much off-road tech. There is no hill descent and no terrain response. Yes, you can take the easy route and use the automatic mode, which offers full-time 4-wheel drive, but the G-Class's clever build quality really is the business when you engage those diffs. Engineers have not touched the underpinnings of G-Class for 2013 upgrades, with most of the changes being on the inside and exterior of the car. The interior has been completely redesigned and boasts a new 7-inch color display. There's a new center console and instrument cluster, as well as paddles on the new multifunction steering wheel. Merck's Command Online entertainment system is now standard with internet access and includes off-road functions like route recording and a compass function. The Iron Schöckl was quite an experience, but it's the Schöckl mountain track, about 50 kilometers outside of Graz, where the G-Class and Magna Steyr's drivers really get to show off. It's a 100-year-old rutted route where the company tests its star off-roader, more or less all to itself, with the exception of a few ardent hikers. They tell us that 4,000 kilometers of testing here is the equivalent of 300,000 k's of normal testing. Drivers work in 2 shifts, going up and down the mountain 6 times a day, every day of the week.
We have approximately 10 drivers. They are Magna Steyr drivers. They go through an ongoing intense training program. It's off-road as well as on-road oriented. And by the way, they also have a specific task as well. They take care of the test track. And that gives them also the feeling that, for example, after heavy rainfall or whatever, that they know exactly about the actual conditions at the test track, which is very important, especially when you go in such a dramatic way downhill like you experienced it maybe today.
Experiencing the track with one of these drivers behind the wheel is almost indescribable, but these visuals should give you some clue as to how fast they tackle this rocky path. It's not for sissies, but still they did let us drive a portion of it to experience how very much at home the G-wagon is here. The G-Class is surprisingly comfortable in this harsh terrain and pretty quiet inside, all things considered. It has amazing ground clearance, claimed at just over 8 inches or 200 millimeters, but feels like so much more because of those independently working wheels. A new 5.5-litre V8 has been introduced in the G63 AMG, giving you 400 kilowatts and 760 newton meters on tap. This model will be coming to South Africa, and amazingly, despite its 10% increase in power from the old engine, Mercedes has achieved a 13% reduction in consumption. Eco Stop Start has also been introduced to this model. There's also a 6-litre V12 bi-turbo sitting under the hood of the G65 with 450 kilowatts and 1,000 newtons, but sadly this is not made in right-hand drive, so we won't be seeing it back home. Along with this G63, our model range will also include the G350 BlueTech, priced at just over 1.3 million rand, and the G500. The G300 CDI Professional remains unchanged, and that's the cheapest of the bunch, with an entry point of just under 800,000 rand. Back to the Schöckl, and it was time for the drivers to give us the fright of our lives. Downhill on off-road terrain at mind-boggling speeds. The only way to explain it is to show you what it felt like.
Off-road driving is not about speed at all. Off-road driving is about reading the terrain. It's about knowing about the capabilities of the G-Class in this case. And it's about driving as fast as the terrain permits, but also as safe as you can go, especially when you have such wonderful passengers like you in the vehicle.
Back on the road, the G-Class is a pleasure to drive, if somewhat heavy. Managing the size of the vehicle on the wrong side of the road is also exacerbated by what I can only describe as bus-like steering, which takes a while to coax the car around corners. All that power and lovely bends are not quite inspiring the confidence in me to drive it with gusto. The new 7-speed G-Tronic is great and is part of the new tech in 2013 G-Class. You've now also got Disctronic adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, Parktronic and a trailer stabilizing function. On the outside, the facelifted model gets LED running lights and turn indicators in the side mirrors, as well as a new bumper and grille for the AMG models, which also get 20-inch rims for the first time.
I think with the G-Class we have still, after 33 years, also a brand ambassador here in Graz for the brand Mercedes-Benz. This trustful companion you can have in such a vehicle in very remote areas. And that's why we as a team here in Graz are pretty proud that we still get the go from the board to have the vehicle going and going for the next decade to come.
Whether it's the beautiful mountain scenery of the Schöckl in Austria or the conspicuous consumption of sand and pavements, the G-Class is perfectly at home. Thankfully, for the 2013 upgrade, they haven't touched a thing under the skin, so it's still a highly capable off-roader.
Actually, that's a bit of an understatement. Considering what we've been doing at the G-Class test track here today, we've practically been rallying. You're never going to find it filing its nails, but it doesn't have to. People love the boxy, practical shape. Now with a bit of cosmetic surgery, it's more comfortable and more in line with its Schöckl pavement crawler competitors. And if that's not enough, the price will be ridiculous enough to impress the Joneses when the first models land in South Africa in November.